Hi, guys, I'm Elephant. The anime recap I'm going to share today is how a realist hero rebuilt the kingdom. This is the strongest male protagonist I have ever seen. After he transmigrates to another world, he only has a few small talks with the king and is appointed as the new king. Not only that, but the king also promises to marry his daughter to him and allows him to choose his favorite person throughout the country to build a harem. However, all this is not what he wants. What exactly is his purpose in becoming the king? Let's start the story together. The male protagonist Kazuya is a college student who is keen to study politics. On this day, while he is studying in the library, he suddenly transmigrates into a strange world. Before Kazuya can figure out what is happening, he is brought to a king named Albert by several guards. From Albert's explanation, Kazuya gradually understands what happened. It is a world in which human beings and other races live together, and there are many nations. These countries fought with each other, and it was not until a few years ago that a large number of monsters invaded the world, and the countries stopped the war and formed an alliance against the monsters. Now the main force of fighting monsters is the Grand Chaos Empire, which has the most powerful force in the world, and other countries are responsible for providing funds to the Grand Chaos Empire. The Kingdom of Elfrieden is too poor to pay for the extra money, and the Empress of the Grand Chaos Empire has to ask Albert to summon a hero for the Grand Chaos Empire as a substitute for the grant. Albert is lucky enough to summon Kazuya, but he doesn't know why the Grand Chaos Empire needs a hero. After listening to Albert's explanation, Kazuya calmly thinks that the most important thing to consider now is what will happen when he goes to the Grand Chaos Empire. He may become a weapon against monsters, or he may be dissected by the researchers of the Grand Chaos Empire to uncover his secrets. Kazuya knows that if he leaves the Kingdom of Elfrieden, he would likely be in a dangerous situation. Kazuya's safest choice is to stay in the Kingdom of Elfrieden, as he can feel that Albert is a kind person and will not hurt him. To persuade Albert to let him stay, Kazuya says he has the knowledge to help the Kingdom of Elfrieden become a powerful nation. Kazuya spends 3 days with Albert discussing the country's policies, exporting his own unique insights. Albert is eventually convinced by Kazuya, and he even thinks that Kazuya makes a better king than him, and publicly announces that he would pass the throne to Kazuya and marry his daughter Licia to Kazuya. The news shocks Kazuya and everyone in the Kingdom of Elfrieden, and they realize that the Kingdom of Elfrieden is about to undergo a sea change. As soon as Licia hears the news, she rushes back to the palace from afar to protest Albert's decision, which Albert ignores. Licia believes that Albert has been lured by Kazuya and angrily confronts Kazuya. In her argument with Kazuya, Licia learns that Albert forcibly transfers the throne to Kazuya, a responsible man who believes that since he has become a king, he will spend a few years to make the Kingdom of Elfrieden rich even if he needs to abdicate. Licia also learns that Kazuya is a realist and that the treasures in the treasury are things that he sees as unhelpful to the people. After the research, he finds that the biggest problem in the Kingdom of Elfrieden now is famine. So the first thing he does when he takes the throne is to sell the treasure and buy food for the people. The first time Licia meets a king, who is not greedy for treasure, she is so shocked by Kazuya's gumption that she even forgets about the marriage contract with him. Licia becomes Kazuya's assistant out of admiration for him and has been by his side ever since. Kazuya is an earthling after all and knows very little about this world, and Licia's arrival has provided him with a lot of help. Kazuya learns from Licia that when all heroes are summoned to this world, they automatically learn the language of this world and immediately receive magic. Kazuya experiments and discovers that the magic he possesses is to replicate his consciousness onto other objects. For example, he can copy his consciousness on several pens at the same time, and let them work automatically so that his office productivity can be increased exponentially. With the help of magic, Kazuya does not have to stay in the office all day and often takes Licia on expeditions. After investigation, he learns that the real cause of the famine in the Kingdom of Elfrieden is that the price of cotton rose last year, and the farmers planted cotton in their fields to make more money, resulting in a shortage of food in the Kingdom of Elfrieden. However, the price of cotton has plummeted this year, and the farmers lack both money and food, causing famine. Kazuya immediately sets out to make a series of measures to encourage farmers to cultivate food. Kazuya is well aware that agricultural measures will take time to take effect, and that he needs to find another way to solve the current famine. Kazuya begins to tackle corruption in the country and scraps non-essential projects to save money. The money can be used both as aid funds from the Kingdom of Elfrieden to the Grand Chaos Empire and as food purchases. In the process, Kazuya discovers that there are too few talents in the palace, and even with the help of magic, he can't handle everything. Kazuya decides to recruit talents from all over the country, and he uses a large number of magic crystal balls to project his projections all over the country. In the projection, Kazuya earnestly states that people with talent can go to the palace to participate in a talent audit, and they will have the opportunity to become government officers and receive rewards. Even talents that are considered useless by others may be recognized by Kazuya. Kazuya's speech touches many people, who flock to the palace to participate in the review. In the end, only 5 citizens successfully pass the audit and come to Kazuya. The first citizen is Dark Elf Aisha, the most powerful fighter in the country. Aisha is not here for wealth or status, and she says she's willing to give up her reward, hoping that Kazuya will use the king's power to help her solve a problem. Dark elves draw their strength from trees and are guardians of the forest. But recently, the trees in the forest have stopped growing, and the dark elves have no way to restore the forest to normal. After learning more about the forest from Aisha, Kazuya makes a judgment based on what he has learned on Earth. He points out that the dark elves overprotect the forest, resulting in too many old trees and hindering the growth of new trees. Dark elves only need to cut down some old trees regularly to revitalize the forest. Aisha does not expect Kazuya to propose a solution so easily and admires his erudition. Aisha has since been responsible for Kazuya's safety and has become his most loyal subordinate. The second citizen selected is named Juna, who has the world's top singing voice. Kazuya arranges for Juna to sing to the whole country through the projection of the crystal ball, soothing the citizens with her singing in difficult moments of famine. The third citizen is Poncho, and his specialty is eating. Poncho loves to explore new foods and eats almost everything he can in the world. He spends all his money on it and is considered a lemon by others. Kazuya excitedly shakes Poncho's hands, saying that Poncho is the talent he needs the most. None of those present can understand Kazuya's actions, and in their opinions, Poncho's talent is useless. Only the fourth elected citizen, Hakuya, applauds Kazuya's vision. Hakuya points out that what the kingdom of Elfrieden needs most now is to find new food. Poncho is able to discern what could become a new source of food for the population and alleviate famine. Hakuya is selected for his wealth of knowledge and great wisdom, and his unique insights win Kazuya's appreciation. They discuss the famine for the whole day, and eventually, Hakuya is recognized by Kazuya and appointed prime minister. The last citizen selected is a mystic wolf race girl named Tomo. Tomo's has the most special talent. She can talk to animals. Tomo privately tells Kazuya a secret that she once managed to communicate with a monster, something no one has ever done. Realizing that Tomo's talent can affect relations between nations and monsters, Kazuya hurries to take her to the office and calls in several of his closest and trusted people, including Licia. After discussion, they agree that the kingdom of Elfrieden has a chance to make peace with the monsters through Tomo. This idea still needs discreet planning, because they don't know what the monsters really think yet, and the various races are very resistant to the monsters. They decide to keep Tomo in the palace for protection until the actual plan works out. Some of them, fearing that Tomo's sudden tight protection would arouse suspicion from others, suggest that Kazuya take Tomo as a concubine. When Licia hears this suggestion, she gets nervous unconsciously. Fortunately, Kazuya rejects the suggestion and only makes Tomo his adopted daughter. Licia is relieved to think of her mood, which has just fluctuated, and realizes that she has fallen in love with Kazuya. Kazuya doesn't notice Licia's anomaly, and after he has set Tomo, he hastily summons Poncho to try to solve the famine. Kazuya learns from a conversation with Poncho that many edible things go unnoticed by the public. In order to make the people aware that these things are edible, Kazuya and Poncho try them in front of the whole country with a projection. Their demonstrations help expand the food source and temporarily alleviate the famine problem in the kingdom of Elfrieden. While Kazuya is thinking about what new policy to plan next, Hakuya insists that Kazuya take a day off. Hakuya makes this request with 2 considerations. First, Kazuya has been working for several months and is in desperate need of rest. Second, as the king, Kazuya hasn't taken a vacation for a long time, neither have the officers, which inevitably leads to a high state of exhaustion for everyone. Kazuya is persuaded by Hakuya and promises to take a day off. Kazuya can't figure out what to do, so he simply takes Licia to go shopping and arranges for Aisha as their bodyguard. Both Licia and Aisha fancy Kazuya and they take the trip as if it is a date with him, deliberately changing into sophisticated looks. They do not see each other as rivals in love, because Kazuya as the king could have taken many wives. Licia and Aisha even joke privately with each other that they would marry Kazuya even if he has 8 wives. Kazuya never notices Licia and Aisha's thoughts and focuses on shopping. He also dresses up a little to avoid being recognized by others. While shopping, they come to a tavern, and Kazuya overhears a lot of interesting gossip from the customers' conversations. The most noticeable one is the conversations of a couple. The The man in the couple is named Halbert, the son of the leader of the royal guard, and the lady is Keed, a magician under Kazuya. They are very close, but they quarrel over their future choices. Recently, 3 generals in the kingdom of Elfrieden are plotting a rebellion. Halbert believes that Kazuya will lose, and decides to join the generals without telling his father, while Keed insists on loyalty to Kazuya. The cause of this rebellion begins with the distribution of power in the kingdom of Elfrieden, which Kazuya has discussed with Hakuya. When the kingdom of Elfrieden was founded, the nobility of the country, in order to maintain the balance between the various ethnic groups, stipulated that humans would control the government of the kingdom of Elfrieden, and the other 3 most dominant races controlled the navy, army, and air force. This rule played a huge role in the stability of the kingdom of Elfrieden in peacetime. But now the kingdom of Elfrieden faces threats from monsters and conflicts with other countries and may fall into war at any time. Kazuya believes that the concentration of power in the country is sufficient to deal with the crisis, and demands that the generals in control of the navy, army, and air force surrender to him, causing them to rebel. In order to avoid Halbert and Keed's conversation from attracting the attention of the others, Kazuya reveals his identity and takes them to his office, scaring them all. Kazuya does not punish Halbert, but only persuades him to give up his defection to the generals. Kazuya points out that once Halbert joins the rebels, he and Keed are destined to become enemies until either side is completely eliminated. At that time, their love will become a tragedy. Kazuya's words awaken Halbert, who regrets his previous thoughts and sincerely confesses his mistake to Kazuya. After this, Kazuya instructs the leaders of the royal guard to take Halbert away. The leader of the royal guard is loyal to Kazuya, and he lectures Halbert hard when he hears what happened. The leader of the royal guard then reports that the mastermind of the plot for the rebellion is Army General George. George tells Halbert that he would never be an enemy of Kazuya. Kazuya doesn't understand why George is plotting a rebellion since he doesn't want to be an enemy of him. Now that the generals have not rebelled yet, Kazuya has to send people to watch their movements while solving the most important problems of famine and poverty in the kingdom of Elfrieden. Kazuya's plan to encourage farmers to grow food will take some time to bear fruit, and he decides to focus on developing the kingdom of Elfrieden's economy first. Kazuya is well aware that transportation is essential for economic development. He intends to build a large seaport to serve as a cargo center for the kingdom of Elfrieden. After a series of studies, Kazuya plans to build the harbor in a city called Venetonova. Kazuya, a realist who takes reality into account in everything he does, brings his men to Venetonova to investigate before making plans to build a harbor. Kazuya finds that Venetonova is an extremely advantageous place, almost the most suitable city in the world for building a harbor. Curiously, the only seaport in the kingdom of Elfrieden is not currently in Venetonova. Kazuya grows to have some doubts, suspecting that Venetonova has its defects for not being the harbor. He takes his men around to visit the locals of Venetonova and learns that there is a legend that has been circulating in the local area for hundreds of years. That is, no houses are allowed to be built on the seaside of Venetonova, otherwise it will attract the wrath of the sea god. No one believes in the existence of the sea god and feels that this myth is just a rumor and can be neglected. Only Kazuya feels that there must be a basis for this legend to have been able to circulate for so long, speculating that Venetonova may have experienced several catastrophic tsunamis. Kazuya believes that to build a seaport in Venetonova is risky. He eventually decides to build the harbor near Venetonova. A spot has no similar legend and will not affected by the tsunami. Once Kazuya has set his goal, he immediately starts the construction of the port. In order to speed up the progress of the project, he not only transfers the royal guard to the site to assist but also works with them himself. While construction of the port is well underway, Aisha receives news that the forest of Dark Elf has suffered a severe mudslide. Aisha hurriedly reports the news to Kazuya, begging for his help. The forest of Dark Elf is in the kingdom of Elfrieden, and Kazuya as the king certainly will not ignore this disaster. He immediately takes his men and summons all the royal guards to the forest rescue. The mudslide is much worse than they thought, and many dark elves have already died. Fortunately, Kazuya's rescue is timely and he is able to rescue some of the dark elves. The dark elves are grateful to Kazuya for personally bringing the royal guard to the rescue, but Kazuya remains sad. He looks at the families of the victims crying and feels guilty that he is not doing good enough. Kazuya laments that as a king, he has a responsibility to solve all the problems in the country, but he focuses only on famine and poverty. He should have set up shelters across the country earlier and prepared emergency supplies to deal with emergencies. Licia, who has always been by Kazuya's side, is surprised by Kazuya's self-reproach. She has never seen a king care so much about the people. At this moment, Licia has a hunch that Kazuya would become the greatest king of the world. If Kazuya wants to become the world's greatest king, he may have to survive a crisis more dangerous than mudslides, rebellion. Recently, under Kanzuya's plan, food production across the country has increased dramatically, and the famine problem has been temporarily resolved, which means that a rebellion brewed by the three generals is coming. The rebellion is planned by Gaius, king of Principality of Amadonia. In addition to the three generals, it was Gaius, when Kanzuya had just become king of the kingdom of Elfrieden, that encouraged three generals of the kingdom of Elfrieden to rebel, claiming to help them. Gaius's real purpose is to invade the kingdom of Elfrieden while it is at war. Although Kanzuya does not know that Gaius is involved in the rebellion, he knows that the kingdom of Elfrieden is in danger of being invaded if it falls into civil war. So the first thing Kanzuya does after solving the famine problem is to negotiate with the three generals through projection. He is questioned at the outset of the negotiations by the generals, who believe that human control of all armies would lead to the breaking of the equality of the races within the kingdom of Elfrieden. Kanzuya explains in detail why he wants to centralize power and promises to be killed by the generals if he violates the principle of racial equality. Kanzuya's sincere telling impresses the Admiral, Excel, to agree to be loyal to Kanzuya, but George and Air Force General Castor insist on removing Kanzuya from the throne. Kanzuya is still unable to determine what George really thinks, and can only declare war with the Air Force and Land Force. Soon, the civil war of the kingdom of Elfrieden officially begins, which is the perfect timing for Gaius to expand the Principality of Amadonia. Gaius immediately leads all his troops toward a border city in the kingdom of Elfrieden. The lord of the city, after consulting Excel, decides to find a way to stall time until Kanzuya quells the rebellion. The lord humbly promises Gaius that it would take a few days to persuade all the people in the city to surrender to Gaius. Gaius, apparently happy to conquer the city without having casualties in his army, readily promises not to attack during these days. Unlike the temporary peace in the city, the capital of the kingdom of Elfrieden has been surrounded by the army and plunges into war. The army numbers 40,000, while Kanzuya's royal guard has only 10,000 soldiers. There are two main reasons the capital has not fallen yet. The first is that Kanzuya has many advanced tactics on Earth, with which he organizes effective defenses. The second is that the army, as the most powerful force in the kingdom of Elfrieden, has not played its due strength. This leads Kanzuya to gradually believe that George really doesn't want to be an enemy of him, but he is not yet sure what George's real purpose is. When the war reaches a stalemate, Castor's air force arrives on the battlefield. They are all dragonets and have great strength far beyond other races. Just as the royal guard is at a disadvantage due to the entry of the air force into the war, Kanzuya sends his only warship to attack the castle where Castor is located. The remaining dragonet soldiers in the castle immediately storm the warship in an attempt to prevent it from threatening Castor's safety. They break into the warship and find that there is no one there, only to realize that they have fallen for Kanzuya. By this time, Kanzuya has led his men into Castor's castle, and Castor is left alone there. Kanzuya sends Aisha to defeat Castor and put a slave collar with magic on him. Castor can no longer disobey Kanzuya's orders, and the air force is under Kanzuya's command from then on. Kanzuya sends the air force to confront the army, but as soon as the army falls to a disadvantage, George chooses to surrender. All those involved in the rebellion wear slave collars at George's request, including George himself. George then asks the leader of the royal guard to convey his true thoughts to Kanzuya. In fact, everything George does is for the kingdom of Elfrieden. He makes a series of moves after Kanzuya becomes the king and is convinced that Kanzuya can make the kingdom of Elfrieden strong. George knows best about the situation in the kingdom of Elfrieden and decides to help Kanzuya solve the biggest problem hindering the kingdom of Elfrieden's economic development, which is the corrupt aristocracy. Just as these nobles are dissatisfied with Kanzuya's anti-corruption policies, George leads them to plan a rebellion so that Kanzuya can deal with them for treason. Kanzuya does not expect that George is even willing to be called a traitor by the people to purge these corrupt nobles, and he is deeply touched by George. But Kanzuya doesn't have much time to lament now, because he also learns about Gaius' conspiracy from George's account. Gaius has been waiting for days, not hearing from the Lord's surrender. Realizing that he has been tricked by the Lord, Gaius angrily commands his army to attack the Lord's city. At this moment, a huge projection appears over the city. Kanzuya declares in the projection that he has won the civil war and denounces Gaius for taking advantage of the invasion of the kingdom of Elfrieden. Immediately afterward, Kanzuya declares war on the Principality of Amadonia, claiming that he has led his army to Van, the capital of the Principality of Amadonia. Angry and anxious, Gaius hurries to command the army to rush back to Van. Unexpectedly, Kanzuya sets up an ambush on the road, resulting in heavy losses for Gaius' army. By the time they return to Van, only half of the 30,000 soldiers remain. They discover that Kanzuya has not been attacking Van, but is waiting for their arrival. By this time Gaius' army is exhausted, Kanzuya's army is well prepared for battle, and the outcome of the war is obvious. Eventually, Gaius dies in the war, and his son and daughter flee to other cities. Kazuya takes the victory, easily taking Van and bringing it within the territory of the Kingdom of Elfrieden. All Kazuya needs to do now is to make Van's people surrender to him. Kazuya investigates and learns that Gaius is a brutal king, and the people here have been living in misery. Kazuya wants them to live happily ever after, arranging for some people to prepare many shows, and then projecting them with crystal balls for everyone to see. During the performance, one performer sings the national anthem of the Principality of Amadonia without being punished by Kazuya. The people realize that Kazuya is a king who cares for them and admires freedom. Many people begin to recognize Kazuya's rule, and there is not a single rebellion after the city is taken by Kazuya. But this does not mean that Kazuya can successfully control Van. Empress Maria of the Grand Chaos Empire is unhappy with Kazuya's invasion. Maria has always believed that all nations should unite against monsters. So many years ago, she called on the heads of state to sign an agreement that there could be no war between countries. Although Gaius invaded the kingdom of Elfrieden before being countered by Kazuya, Maria believes that Kazuya should return Van to Gaius' children to maintain peace and order in the world. Maria's request is rejected by Kazuya, so she sends her sister Jean to negotiate with him privately while sending a large number of troops to pressure Kazuya. With both sides refusing to budge, negotiations break down, and they agree to restart formal negotiations in a few days. The negotiations aren't pointless. At least Kazuya learns from Jean that the Grand Chaos Empire doesn't really need heroes at all. Maria has been asking countries to provide grants to the Grand Chaos Empire to help the Grand Chaos Empire fight the monsters. In order not to burden the impoverished kingdom of Elfrieden, she specifically allows Albert to help the Grand Chaos Empire by summoning heroes. The success rate of summoning heroes is extremely low, so Maria's request for summons is only a formality to alleviate other countries' dissatisfaction with the kingdom of Elfrieden's lack of money. After listening to Jean, Kazuya can't help but lament that Maria is a tolerant and intelligent empress. However, he does not give in even though he admires Maria, and he does not want to easily hand over the van that he has obtained by paying so much effort. This means that if they cannot reach a consensus in subsequent negotiations, Kazuya will face a new war. This is an opportunity and a huge challenge for Kazuya. That's the end of the story of this season. The character that impresses me the most in this anime is George. George is an absolute loyalist to the kingdom of Elfrieden, and when he discovers Kazuya's ability to make the kingdom of Elfrieden stronger, he immediately decides to help Kazuya at all costs. George organizes a rebellion to help Kazuya get rid of all the corrupt nobles in the country, even if he does so at the cost of being seen as a traitor to the country. I sincerely admire George's loyalty. He can live a rich life without troubles like other nobles but is willing to sacrifice everything for his beloved motherland. I've seen people like George in my life, who are loyal to family or love and will do whatever it takes to protect what they hold dear. Do you have something or someone you are loyal to? Welcome to leave your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give me thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to let more people see it. Your support motivates me to keep updating. Bye.